All right, let's go ahead and get started with lecture 21, writing equations from a graph. So last time we met, we learned that there are two ways to write a line. Actually three, but we're going to be concentrating on two of them today. The first one is called standard form. Standard form. Standard form is AX plus BY is equal to C. X and Y are going to be variables, but capital A, B, and C are all going to be whole numbers. That is standard form. But today, we're going to be looking at slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form is going to be y equals mx plus b. As usual, x and y are going to be variables, but m and b are going to be numbers. M is going to stand for the slope, whatever the slope of the line is going to be. I'll show you how to find that. And b is going to be a number that stands for the y-intercept. So just to recap what slope is, we can find slope a number of ways. The first way is by using the slope formula. If I have 2 points, let's call them x1, y1, and x2, y2, I can use these 4 coordinates inside the slope formula, where I have y2 minus y1 on top. That's going to be the change in y. And then on the bottom, I'm going to have the change in x, x2 minus x1. So this is the slope formula. It should be very familiar to you at this point. There is a second formula that we can use to find slope. It is called rise over run. So let me write that down. The second formula is called rise over run. So we're going to have change in y on top divided by change in x on the bottom. Change in y, we call that rise. That's how far up you have to go to get to one point to another. And then the change in x on the bottom is going to be your run. That's how far left or right you have to go to get to your next point. So the run is going to go from left to right, kind of like this. You start from left and you go to right. And then the rise is going to start from going down to going up. So it's going to look like this. You start down below and you go up to the top. And basically, you're trying to see how far you have to go to get from one point to the next. And I always start on the left and move my way to the right. So I start on the left and I go to the point that's on the right. The first thing I have to do is figure out how far up I need to go. I'm going to use blue for that. So here, all the way up to here. That's how far up I need to go to get to the next point. And then I have to figure out what my run is. That's going to be in red. That's how far to the right I need to go to get from one point to the next. So let's say my rise is 3 and my run is 5. So then my slope would be rise over run. So I'm going to put my 3 over my 5. And that's how I figure out what the slope is going to be. I'm always using 2 points and then counting how far up I need to go and how far to the right I need to go. And that will allow me to find slope. So slope is always going to be symbolized by the m, the lowercase m, and we always put that in front of the x right here. The y-intercept is always going to be added off to the side. That's going to be this b right here. That's where the graph is going to cross the y-axis. So let's talk about that. Let's say I have a y-axis and an x-axis. I'm going to label the x-axis with a lowercase x and the y-axis with a lowercase y. And I'm going to draw a line with a positive slope. So this line, I'm going to call it cursive L. This line is going to cross the x-axis right over here. I'll put that in red. This is called the x-intercept. The x-intercept. That's where the line is going to cross the x-axis. But then I also cross the y-axis at some point. I'll put that in blue. This point right here is where the graph is going to cross the y-axis. And we call that the y-intercept, or lowercase b, as we call it. So whatever number that is, that's going to be the number that's going to be symbolized by b. And just as a reminder, if you want to figure out what the x-intercept is, you always have to let y be 0. So we're going to let y be 0 to find the x-intercept. So we're choosing the opposite variable. And then for the y-intercept, we're going to let x be 0 to figure out what that is. So I'll leave that up there a little bit so you can get that. And then we'll move on to some of the questions that are on the notes. But every line that we do today is going to have at least one y-intercept. It might have an x-intercept, it might not, but every line that we look at today is going to have a y-intercept. So it's going to cross the y-axis at some point. Okay, let's look at this paper that I have down here. Okay, so down here, we're going to do number 4 first. And I'm going to zoom in on it so you can see it a little bit better. Can I? Okay. All right. So for each graph, what we're going to do is we're going to first find B. That's up here. That's the first thing we're going to do. We're going to figure out where it crosses the y-axis. And then we're going to find a second point, and we're going to figure out the slope formula. And that's going to give us the slope. So let's look here at number 4. Where does this cross the y-axis? It crosses right here. So let's count where that is. 1, 2, 3. So my b value is going to be 3. That's where it crosses the y-axis. Now I need to figure out what the slope of the line is. And to do that, I'm going to need at least 2 points. I already have 1 point right here. I just need to choose another one. So let's choose this one right here. I think the line is going to go through this point. So what we're going to do is we're going to use rise over run. M equals rise over run. I'm going to figure out how far up or down I need to go to get to the next point. So to get from the point right here to the point right here, I need to go down by how much? 1, 2, 3, 4. So my rise is going to be -4. That's why I have a -4 on top. Now I need to figure out how far to the right I need to go to get from the point on the left to the point on the right. And for this one, I only need to go to the right once. So my run is going to be a +1. So now I've got -4 divided by a +1, and that's going to give me -4. That is my slope. So now the last thing we need to do is write our equation in mx plus b form. So I'm going to need to write this as y equals mx plus b. My m is going to be -4. That's my slope. So I have -4x. My b value is going to be 3. So I'm going to put that in for b. And I'm done. That's how you write an equation from a graph. Notice that this line has a negative slope. That means that the line is going down as you move from left to right. Let's look at the next one, number 6. We're going to do that one next. The first thing that we need to do for number 6 is figure out where it crosses the y-axis. That's going to be my b value. So where does it cross the y-axis? Down here at this point right here. That is -1, -2. So my y-intercept is going to be a -2. That's the first thing that I need to find. The next thing that I need to find is the slope of this line. That's going to be my m. And I usually figure that out with my rise over run formula. Now to do rise over run, I'm going to need at least 2 points. I already have 1 point that I put on my graph, the y-intercept. I just need to figure out 1 more point. So I look at the graph, and the point that I'm going to choose is, let's use this point right here. So looking at this graph, I'm going to start at the point on the left side, and I'm going to move to the point on the right side. So how far up or down do I need to go to get from this point to that point? From here to here. I need to go down by 3. So my rise is going to be -3. It's -3 because I have to go down 3 to get to the next point. How far to the right do I need to go? That's going to be my run. Well, this is pretty easy. I just need to go to the right twice. So my run is going to be 2. So -3/2. I can't really simplify that anymore. So I'm going to leave my slope as a fraction, -3/2. Okay, so now that I have my slope and I have my y-intercept, I can write my line as y equals mx plus b. My slope is going to be m, -3/2, x plus b, which is -2. So that's going to be my slope-intercept form. And if I wanted to, I could take that slope-intercept form and turn it into standard form by getting x and y on the same side. But I'm going to leave it as slope-intercept form for now. Let's look at number 8. So for number 8, the first thing I need to do is figure out where it crosses the y-axis. That's going to be my b value. So where does it cross the y-axis? At 1, 2, 3. This point right here. So my b is going to be a +3. Now I need to figure out what the slope of the line is going to be. I need 2 points to do that. I'm going to choose this point right here and this point right here on the x-axis at -2. So to get from the point down there to the point up there, how far up do I need to go? That's going to be my rise. I need to go up by 3. So my rise is going to be a 3, a +3. And now what does my run have to be? That's how far to the right I need to go. And I need to go to the right twice. So my run is going to be 2. And that's my slope, 3/2. Now I'm going to write my slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. My m is going to be 3/2. That's my slope. I'm going to multiply that by x, and then I'm going to add b at the end, which is +3. So I get y equals 3/2 x plus 3. So what I'm doing for each question is I'm figuring out what the y-intercept is first, and then I'm finding another point so that I can find slope. And then once I know what those two numbers are, I put them in the form y equals mx plus b. So for any graph I give you, you should be able to tell me the equation of that line. Okay, let's do some special examples together. Let's look at number 2 on this page. So notice that number 2 is a horizontal line. Now, a horizontal line is always going to have a slope of 0. So when I do y equals mx plus b, I know that my m is going to be 0. But what is my y-intercept? Where does it cross the y-axis? It crosses down here at -1. So my b value is going to be -1 for this one. Now, since I have 0x, 0 times x is going to give me 0. And then 0 plus -1 is just -1. So that's going to be my answer. Y equals -1. This always occurs when you have a horizontal line. The last one I wanted to do was the special case where you have a vertical line. So let's take a look at that. That's going to be number 3 down here. So for number 3, I have a vertical line. Up here, a vertical line is always going to have a slope that's undefined. So there is no m value. What's the y-intercept for this line? Does it even cross the y-axis at all? It doesn't. So there's no y-intercept. It does have an x-intercept though, right? It crosses the x-axis where? At +4. So the equation for this line is going to be x equals 4. It doesn't have a slope. It doesn't even have a y-intercept. So I can't put my answer in the form y equals mx plus b because I just don't have that information. All I have is the x-intercept. So I use x equals 4. Okay. So you're going to have 2 assignments that are going to be due on Sunday. Let me write them down so you'll know what they are. The first one is going to be the slope-intercept classwork. We did that on Monday. That's where you try to get it in the form y equals mx plus b from standard form ax plus by equals c. And today, Wednesday, we did writing equations. So the classwork is what I want you to try next. So that's all I have to say today. Class dismissed. If you have any questions, you can put them down in the chat box, and I will get to you very soon. And I'll see everybody back here on Monday.